Alright, very good evening and welcome aboard to the Podium show like every single Monday from 10 p.m. to midnight as we preview and review the motorsport on the local scene, African scene, as well as on the international scene on the start of March 2025. I'm hoping that everything has shifted away from the last time we did run this show. As usual, I'm working on family with the show as a Honda, and 7 million part of it by then I was happening also. Msarati mekumpenda tumukuzo watu lingola over better. In our first segment for this program, of course, we're going to talk about later on SSENYANGE and BURUA digest a lot regarding motorsport affairs in our beloved country. In the course of last week, by the mediation, I beyond different things to speak regarding what's transpired. That mediation, then after they met the Inspector of Government, that is the Reverend Kanya. I wrote you definitely formulate today's program. In our first segment, we had a tour. We were very preparing for the DELIBERATIONS 2025, and we have a chance to ask a number of mechanics, but of course, I'm very to Ingereza. R5 components to R5. So, that's what I'm in our first segment. We have after the commercial break. Edson Mungereza who R5.
Edson Mungereza, Chief Engineer Moiro Rally Team, on a Ford Fiesta R5 Rally 2 2014. Wetuli wano tuli ku engine bay kyetuliko nti kati eno ye intercooler yayo connectinga ku engine obunyogovu bwaki bwa okufuna empewo kugenda ku tabo jeri. Eno ye oil cooler yayo ekulinga oil okudda mu engine ebeere nga engine eri cooled bulungi esobole okukola omulimu gwayo nga bwe kyetaagisa. Wano ye radiator yayo okulinga amazzi okuva mu engine n'okudda mu radiator bwetyo kubanga buli kimu nti engine eri cooled bulungi. Kiddako tuyina zino enseke zemulaba obungi kati zino zikulinga hydraulic wa steering. Steering yayo eri wansi awo kati zino zi pipes zayo zitwala hydraulic kubanga ziri cooled nga ekola bulungi nnyo. R5 yanjawulo ku group N car. Ekisookera ddala nti eri lighter just okulaba nti emmotoka edduka nnyo okusinga kweri. Engine 1600 tabo ya plastic ebeera ng'eri light n'oluggi lwayo lwanjawulo ku ziri endala kubanga luli light. Oluggi lwa plastic, oluggi lwa kyuma lwaki nti lwa kyuma wano ng'ate awasigadde wali plastic. Bw'otunuulira wano nti ettama lya plastic. Twagala emmotoka ebeere ng'eri light ate tekisobola kutyako bizitowa nnyo. Ekikozesa oluggi nga lwa kyuma driver waatuula almost nti singa otomera impact tebanga kitegeera okutuukako mangu. Then wano emabega plastic, then ne top ya kyuma singa ogwa esegedde obutakutuukako mangu. Munda ndowooza tulabyeyo kati wano kyetwogera eno ye impact form yayo okuprotectinga driver waffe ali munda ne co driver we. Gino gye tuyita impact form. Singa oba olina wootomedde bino ne biba bizeewuwo tebisobola kukunyiga nnyo nga ki nga okuta eno ye protection ya bavuzi baffe munda. Era ne bwotunda waggulu tulina pad caging owulira tokoona ku mutayimbwa ki direct. Osobola okumbuuza nti wano nga wali pad ate wano tewali. Entebe teriiwo essaawa eno wano wabeera mabega wa ntebe wano wali mu maaso ga ntebe oba ku mutwe gwo ye cage padding e protecting aba drivers baffe. enjawulo nti yo eri lighter ate version empya kwegamba kyekiriko essaawa eno mu World Rally Cars. Version eno eyokubiri, then tulina Rally 1. This is Rally 2 car ku World Rally Championship in Rally 2 car. Buli kimu olaba kyanjawulo, bw'otunula munda nti wali light ne kuuziri endala bw'oba ozitunuddemu nti ebintu mulimu bingi, naye eno okitunulira nti buli kimu bakola ki, bakigonza. Driver okuvuga tolaba eno nga handbrake ogiraba bwefaanana, gear lever ogiraba weeri, ziri za okitegeera eno yanjawulo, eno ye sequential gear lever, byanjawulo nnyo okusinziira ku ziri endala bwe zibadde. FT3 tank eri protected kati okugijja tosobola giraba saawa eno kati kino mulimu kye bayita FT3 kiri munda muno. Kati amafuta eno breather yaayo, eno fuel gauge yaayo, wali tuyinawo ogateeramu wano, eno breather wali we tugateeramu. Then tuyina kye bayita bw'oba ba scrutineers oba ba manufacturers basobola kugamba nti wakozeseza ekika ky'amafuta ekirala, tubagamba no gegali wano we tugiramu sample. Kano teekako olupiira tulina ne tuteekako ako, teeka mu switch ne tujjamu amafuta n'akebera kyayagala there and then. Ne kati kuziri emmotoka endala ate sumula mu yingini leeta akadomola etegeera okufuna sample y'amafuta, naye wano just opulaginga wano oluseke n'oteekawo mu jjaaga n'ojjamu amafuta there and then. Wano eno ye fire extinguisher, automatic fire extinguisher yeeno, eno battery yaayo tegeera kano keeka twala omuliro ku battery ku regulatinga muliro ku battery ke kano. Then wano tulinawo manual fire extinguisher, bakiraba nti eno eyinza obutamala kubanga twaliwo omuliro wegguli nti oluseke terutuukako nga bwolaba bwe lutambula, zino enseke zino bwoziraba bwezita. Kati wano efuuwa munda, singa omuliro guba munda yeno efuuwa wano, kwe kufuuwa munda wano n'enseke ze zino endala. Then wabweru waliwo nti omuliro gukutte ng'ate tewali nseke zino, ne bateekawo nti olina okubeera ng'olina ki, olina manual fire extinguisher yeeno. Zirina okuba bbiri, owaako driver ne wa driver. Z'amabega zino za maaso, olaba nti eri emu esinga ku gineewaayo, ey'emabega olwokuba nti diff, okuva ku diff kugenda ku hub wanjawulo. Kati zino zikola mabega, zino zikola mu maaso. Ku diff eno ye faani yaayo ekuulinga diff. Then tulinawo ka kuula, diff ekuulingibwa eyinamu cc oba diff oil, ejja muno n'ekuulinga fan neewujjawo wali. Byebyenjawulo ku R5 to group NK. Discs nga bw'oziraba zonna nnene, otegeera zanjawulo ku group NK ku R5. Ensonga kyolaba nti ejja neesibira wali wennyini tuli awo. Ne brake, zino brake pads zaayo okitegeera nti zanjawulo ku za group NK kubanga ekola mu maaso, brake pad ekola mu maaso, yekola emabega. Kyekiri nti esibiraawo wennyini wokola ki, woyagala mu budde. Ba manufacturer batugamba ne bw'obeera mu 200 kph in 30 meters to the turn, brake the car will stop. Ekitali ku group N car. Group N tubeera mu 50 meters, naye aweera oba omize ensanafu, naye ku R5 30 meters to the turn, 200 kph, brake the car will stop. Kino disco ogiraba obunene bwayo, ne bw'ojja wano eno ndowooza ogiraba obunene bwayo. Bw'otunulira eno kati eno yebeera production car, yekola group NK. Bw'otunulira ku disiki yaayo ne bw'otunulira ku eno kalipa, byanjawulo okitegedde. Then gearbox ye amaanyi gonna gali muno. Eno ye gearbox yaayo byonna omulimu guli omwo, speed mwe ziva. Bwe tugenda ku shocks, shock absorbers zaayo shock absorbers zaayo bw'otunulira obuwanvu bwa shock yensonga laki nti oba olaba omupiira guzanya nnyo. Drive travel yaayo ki eba yanjawulo ku group N, kati eno ye ya R5 shock absorber. Ndowooza olaba obuwanvu mu maaso n'emabega zenkana obuwanvu, yensonga laki nti bweba eyita mu binnya olaba nti amagulu g'engeri gye gatambulamu wansi waggulu, kyekino omulimu guli wano. Yes. Esobola okukola mu maaso n'emabega, naye boolina okukyusa spring. Eso okiraba nti zino eza papo zikola mu maaso, zino zikola mabega. Softness. Yeah.
Which one is hard?
Ey'emabega. Kati eno ye steering rack yaffe, otegeera, eno ye steering rack yaffe. Then nga bwe nkulaze wali nti zino enseke oziraba, zino ze zibeera ku pump, steering pump, neziteeka muli ama hydraulic, nejja muno neekuulinga n'addayo. Omwami mwambuuziza kye kyaliwo embalala, obulwadde bwali kuno, kano keeka ke steering pump, kati nayo ekaddiwa. So mileage ye yali eweddeko, ndowooza olaba awo tuba tukola ki, eba epampinga. Kati yalekerawo kupampinga, kwe kukaluba kyekyaliwo embalala, eba ekalubamu, esobola okutambula naye nga ekaluba. Bweba nnamu ebeera too soft, kyekyaliwo embalala, okulaba nti stage ey'emu twateekako empya yeeno. Yes, yali mu van. Era nawe mu van tugendagendamu olabe ebiri mu van. So ndowooza byebyo tekiriiyo, kubanga zitambulira mu layini. Tosaga nti yabuuse n'ava mu emu n'agenda mu ssatu. Zitambulira mu layini. Buli mulundi gw'osika kudda mu mabega GM. Yes. Buli lw'osika enamba emu, namba 2, namba 3, namba 4, namba 5. Yes.
Then requirement engine yasisiro ko mu lukaga, motor group NSC 12 restrictor kati babakkiriza 34 simanyi lwano eno wadde babakkiriza aba group N tosobola kunkuba, kubanga ne bwenkuwa ekidomola ky'amazzi kirimu 20 liters nenkiteekamu amazzi, obuzito bw'olina eyo eri 1200, ekitegeeza kiyinjini kinene. Eno eri 16 eri tani 2 weight, eno eri tani 1 n'ekitundu, ekitegeeza kilo 5 off. Ate ndi 16 na tabo, wadde gw'oli 1200 olina tabo nawe olina obuzito nga bwenkulaze mu nooti. Kati bw'otunira ka gearbox kaako, bwetugenda ku ya group N mugugu, engine yo mugugu, gwe boneti yange ya steel neyo ya steel, plastic gwe oli wa steel, bumper ya plastic. Bw'otunira byonna ebiri awo nti gw'olina steel, amatama steel, bonnet steel, boot steel, top steel, enzigi steel, nze ndi kwa plastic.
Yes. Kati eno ye drive yange kati goina kiplate ekinene weight already emaze okusalako weight. So nze kyensuubira nti omuzungu teyali musiru kugamba kati ne bwotunda motoka eyo bagikola mu 28 eno bagikola 2014 omwaka gumatalinga. So ekintu ekipya yeso akyala bagamba twava mu analog ne tugenda mu digital, ebintu biba byanjawulo aba naye speed eri omwo. Kati eno namba emu nginoonya eno eri wano wamu, namba 2 ngende eno nsika busisi, namba 3 gende eri wano nsika busisi. So nekyo nkolerawo speed. Ne bwoba nateekako restrictor ne baba 36 nze ne bandeka ne baba n'abawa 36 kati bwogamba nti tukali tugende n'okulinnya clutch noonye namba emu wano ninnya clutch mulundi gumu. Naawe ne bwoba ng'olina dog box naye oli mu H pattern buli wogenda kano nze nsika mulundi gumu nsigala nkukuba okitegeera. Break nkulaze break yange kati gweyiyo ne bw'onookola speed 3 osiba ddi. Nze nkugambye 30 meters to the turn nja kusiba, gw'olina okusiba mu 50 meters to the turn, 20 meters speed eyo ne bwe ziba speed 20. Tulina amakoona ameka mu stage 20 km stage erimu amakoona ameka? Makoona 20, 30 meters 50 meters. Tegeeza nina advantage ya 20 meters okusiba buli koona. Ekitegeeza nti buli koona newe maa kuba second 2 nsigala nkuwangula. Steel ate nga ali light, goina steel ne aluminium. Nze nina steel naye nga ali light era nsigala nkola ki era bwekitunulira embalala nti ono ayinza okuba yavuga nga 20% stage zonna ng'okuggyako stage 2 ze bamuwangulamu. Ate bazimuwangula ng'emmotoka emaze okufuna problem ne steering pump. Ekitegeeza singa teya steering pump yali agenda kulya stage zonna. Yes. Yeah.
Solution yokuba R5 kufuna R5.
Yes. R5 to R5 good driver awo mubinkane naye wasigadde tosobola mukuba. Nga talwadde tosobola kumukuba. Era bulijjo nze siba nkibagamba nibo banakwa kati saawa eno bwokwata kirumira wange n'omutuuza muno ponsi yano tajja kwogera oba sebuguzi tajja kwogera kubanga emmotoka ekola 75% ku driver. Yes. Kizibu okuba wa R5 ng'oli mu group N nibo banagamba beera ku open toteako restrictor kubanga kati eno ekitabo kyayo homologation book yayo erina kyegamba nti R5 plus naye ajja kwongera restrictor already sequential gina ayongeddemu buzito weight. Yes. Engine eri 1200 ne bwe tugiteeka ku wing scale eno eyinza okuba ezito wa grams oba 1000 era eri 15 kitegeeza alina obuzito obwo bwa 5. So asigala wakubwa yekenderako bwe mba nti eddakiika bamukuba sekendi 3 osigala oli mukube. Moving rally store yaffe twetugenda ku rally bwe kyetukozesa tukiina muno. Kati nga bwe tubadde mu workshop wali tulabyemu tuyinamu drive shafts zezino wano. Buno bwe bukono wali weebuli. Brake calipers tuziyina, hubs zezino drive shaft kwezisiba then netusibako wano netusibako shock absorbers. Ndowooza wali olabye nga tulina shock absorbers 8. 4 ziri mu motoka, 4 ziri kuno. Tubadde tuzicross checking engeri gye tugenda ku event ennene. Zino ze top mount zaayo shock absorber kwezisiba. bwe tujja wano kati bino byebikono byaffe, bino bya mabega, bino bya maaso. Eno ye steering rack yaffe gye tulabye wali gye tubadde twogerako. Steering pump yaffe kati eno yeno yaffe mbalala bitegedde, so twalinawo ne tujjawo eri empya gye twasibako yeno. Zino zenseke ziri, eno ye faani eno ye radiator yaffe, flywheel, propeller shaft, intercooler yeno, brakes zezino, ago mataala, side mirrors, intake manifold yeyo. Bwebuno bwe twakolaze wali obukuulinga hydraulic bwebwo giri, mpiira gyaffe ne rims byonna biri okwo. So eno ye motoka ndala ng'oggyeko akayumba ketayinaako tosobola kutambula nako, naye ng'ebisigadde byonna mwebiri muno. Affe kye tuba tubanja driver waffe okugituusa mu service park, kubanga byonna ebikola ku motoka tukola ki, tubiina kasite tuuka mu service park obakkiriza ogikolera, tugikola neddayo neevuga, tuwali kye twekwasa. Body parts byonna weebiri, kati twabadde tuggyemu emmotoka okulongoosa. Kati eri waggulu tulinayo, singa nzigulawo waggulu tulinayo bonnet gyeri, bampa tubadde tugiggyemu tugenda kukola branding. Byonna weebiri amataala, kati nga bwe nkola ze side mirrors ziizo, amatama we gali tugaggyemu kuteeka wali for branding. Yeah. Kye bayita akawumbi. Emmotoka emitwalo 36,800 kwe kugula. Kawumbi kamu ne miliyoni nga 4.
Emitwalo 4 aga dola.
Yes. No. Okay. Aga dola. Ninge egula mu pound. Kati kwezo sente bakuwa minimum package.
Spares.
Yes. Yenso achola tuyinawo kati nga bw'olaba drive shafts zino ye minimum. Naye ate ne bakugamba buli kyuma ekiri wano kitambula ku mileage, nti buli kilometers 4 shaft olina okugijjamu oteekamu endala.
Competitive.
So buli rale 2 ez'e Kampala drive shaft ndala eyo teri already, kati ojje kyajja n'emmotoka kyegeeza olina okuteekawo ekipya. So awo nawo nkutwalawo kati byebimu ebyajjamukko n'emmotoka, naye n'ebikadde byakola ki, byavaamu dda nga bwe nkolaze wali pampu tajjako ndala biki ebikono byonna. Kati awo ne tutambula tugende awali ebyazze ebipya. Kati nga bw'olabaawo eno radiator ndala, ndowooza ogirabye eriko ne faani yaayo mpya. So emmotoka buli ddakiika bintu bipya. Ndowooza olaba ze zino hubs empya nga bw'olaba wano, clutch plates empya, air cleaners empya. Nga bwe nkugambye nti buli kintu kyaki kya mileage. Brake pads empya, brake discs empya. Nga bwe ngaye buli kintu kyaki kya mileage. Byebyo ndowooza olaba bino byonna bipya. Kati gano ge matama amapya, g'obadde obuuza nti amatama kati ge gano amapya, naye gali amala tugayina era tugenda kukola branding yaazo. Bino bye bisaanikira ku bonnet. Obadde obuuza bonnet yiino wano, ziizino wano ssebo. Bonnets ziri 2. Bino bye bigendamu wali radiator, mu maaso wali ku faani, intercooler, byonna weebiri bipya. Bino bye sibawali eri ku matama wansi for guarding bye bino ebipya byonna. So mileage yekola ki kati ezo rims empya zino discs empya ebyo byonna ndowooza obiraba. Ono yenna spare waayo mpya, breads empya. So oziraba pipes empya era ndowooza obiraba bino byonna. Ono spare waayo mpya. Ono tajjira ku motoka kubanga tugambye motoka ya mileage. Bye twajjamu kati bw'ojjako kimu olina okuodalinga bibiri kubanga tosobola kubanga oleeta kimu olina okuleeta bibiri. Era nga bwalabye nti mu vaani mubaddemu kati n'ebirala bye bino. Kati bwe tunajja mu vaani tugenda bino tubizze mu vaani ate tuodalinga ebipya ebinaaba birinze mileage. Zino ze rims zaayo mpya era zirinze.
Sorry, ekiro kyengenda okukubira kiyinza okuba kiyinza okuzaamu okumasiga katono naye omulabi n'omuwuliza ndyagadde ekimanyi. Mu safari ya last year yasinne ali baafuna obuzibu entwala emmotoka nga eyonoonese. Ki ekyakolebwa kuba nti emmotoka eddawo efuuka bwetyo? Bingi byayogerwa, Seni yagula akayumba, Seni yakola kino, so tuli ku source kwennyini, so tubula ki ekyakolebwa emmotoka neddawo?
Bwe nkujja wano ngenda kutwala kayumba kali akakola ki akaafa kali kasobola okuddawo essaawa eyo naye nga material tekola kimu tebiriiwo. Ebyokukola emmotoka kuddamu kutambula byaliwo n'emmotoka yabendingamu pipe emu nga tebasobola kukkiriza kuddamu kola ki. So bali ne bagamba nti essaawa eno tekisoboka, olina okugula akayumba akalala kali kakolebwe kadde ku national tubaba tebakkiriza kuddamu kuvuga ku international event. Yes.
In other words, mwakyusa shell nemujja ebyali mweyo shell nembiteekamu eno shell empya
ebimu kubanga ebimu byafa era nabyo ojja biraba wali nga tebisobola kuddawo biteekamu ebipya. Ate ge ng'oli munyiikaavu nnyo bwe kibeera. Bye bino byolabye mu mabokisi muno bye bipya ebyazze, so biri ku boodi. Oba omanyi nti kiri kyajja n'okebera kuno, bwe kiba tekiri kuno oba olina okutumya ekirala. Ebyafa ku WRC byebyo byonna, ebimu ebitaddako, ebirala twabisuula, amatama geego aga amafu gonna. Radiator ndowooza ogiraba yemu ku byafa, n'ennyumba yo Rob todduka jangu. Kati eno ye bode shero yo gyobadde ogamba eya WRC. Twafuna endala kati eno yafuna obuvune yemu lwakuba nti nga bwe ngambye wali yakyamu omutayimbwa guli emabega ng'olina okugula bode shero empya okuddamu okuvuga WRC ngeno tebakyagikkiriza mu WRC.
Okuba osootekamu engine yonna kuba mu proto you can put engine bo osootekamu engine ya group N
omodifyinga kukolamu kyoyagala ne bweba ya Evo ne bweba ya Subaru kati kasita ofuna bode shero ng'eno gwokola kyoyagala.
Ngamba kati eno yennyini
yesa wano weeri okyusa mounting sports erimu engeri gyosibamu parts za ekika kyoyagala. Kati wano weeri bw'ogigula osobola okuteekamu oba engine ya Toyota neba ng'eri proto ya Toyota. Yes.
Katundibwa
kasita ojja ne pound kisoboka.
All right, we'll be back from that short commercial break. It's the Podium show back every single Monday from 10 p.m. to midnight as we preview and review every world of motorsport. Zeka shumaliza program na Job BURUA and Leon SSENYANGE for today's show, which happens to be the 3rd of March 2025. In our first segment, Edson Mungereza wadanyonyola components ezikola the R5. We had the tour there and kansubire musobodo kubanga motoka mugitegera bulungi nnyo. We have time is fast spent, but let me say because these guys say hello and we pick it up from there. Joe, how have you been and long time?
Guys, good evening to you. Funa kadde okujamya okwogerako namwe eri motorsport. Bintu bingi bitambula tubeera mu buswa bwaffe ne tubuwulira ne tufollowinga ne tusereka naye nga bijja ebiri binyuma. Week has been very interesting, very exciting, a lot of hula balu. Nafuna time nenzirako a few weeks back nafuna track up to what was happening even up to today. Nafuna ko trace when in opinion zange fortunately zigena zifuna justification as we move forward. Nenga zendoza somewhere along the way there should be hope.
Like the last 2 or so weeks, one of the groups is I think it has XCOM and competitors. A trillion messages. After I remember Aaron Ngagawani, what have I missed? I think Hanana that's missing. Audio, Sangaba Mawana Gakola Akim, Gakola audio, Nemurika. Zizo kubaza dashika nga musambo ndakono ne
sanse nnyo kubeera ku Fufa TV omulundi guno rozera maze akabanga kamyezi giweraweramuko bukyansembebwa okukyazibwako kuno naye nga okutwaliza awamu happy to be here once again okwogera ebintu bya motorsport so tutambuddeko olugendo era nga bwogambye weeks nga 2 oba oliawo weeks nga 3 era kirungi nnyo nti tukoze ku progress ng'ekibiina ekiddukanya eby'emmotoka z'empaka ne pikipiki mu ggwanga so nsuubira nti era ne discussion zigenda okubeera wano zigenda kuyambako kubanatuwuliriza n'abo bonna abali mu muzannyo gwonna ogw'emmotoka.
Okay, for starters, the federation has been, I think we are handicap 2023. December 19th, when the management that time called for an extraordinary general meeting, which was meant to take place on the 3rd of January, 2024. Then orders from court and all sorts of things. So the whole of last year, issues to do with the litigation of motorsport in civil courts, it has taken center stage. But this year, there was some bit of light at the end of the tunnel when the Federation, Leon, I think you can bring us up to speed in a nutshell. How did they reach here and move forward?
Well, okutwaliza awamu FMU yagendako mu kooti of course. Ng'erina ensonga zewaabidde mu kooti olw'okuggala oba okuteeka envumbo ku akaunti za federation era FMU ne IGG High Court n'esalawo oba n'esaba enjuyi zombi zigende zituule ziteese ku mbeera eyaliwo. Kino kyo kyakolebwa n'era ne issue endala yali mu Court of Appeal nga omusango gwasalibwa High Court era ogwawaabibwa ku nsonga ezo obadde oyogerako. FMU yagendayo mu Court of Appeal nayo court nebasaba babeeko we batuula bakkaanye ku bintu ebimu. So meetings ezo zonna zaaliwo wiiki ewedde. Ku Lwokubiri FMU yatuula ne IGG ne bakkaanya ku bintu ebimu. IGG nakkiriza okugulawo akaunti za federation. Kyali kirungi nnyo kubanga kakati abantu basanyufu nsuubira nti competitions zo zigenda mu maaso nga tewali nnyo okunyigirizibwa nga kubadde. Then of course mediation nga Court of Appeal yali esabye okutabaganya wakati wa FMU ne yali omuwaabi Geoffrey Nsamba otulo olwaliwo ku Lwokusatu era waliwo resolutions za mirundi 2 zakolebwa era nsuubira nti zijja kuyamba nnyo ku nsonga eri mu Court of Appeal. So process at least there's a breath of fresh air and relief mu motorsport. Leka tulinde tulabe ebinaabaawo omwezi guno naddala mu process eggulawo accounts officially n'okujja emisango egimu naddala ogwa FMU ne IGG n'ebiri mu Court of Appeal kubanga Court of Appeal yasaba nga yagala report mu nnaku 30 amaliriza okutuula wakati wa FMU n'Ensamba. So eyo process nayo erina okubeerawo baddeyo mu kooti tulabe ekyekinaddako naye nga at least okutwaliza awamu abantu bomuzannyo basanyufu.
Okay, you've talked about the two resolutions that came out of the meeting that was held at
Cooper Chimney.
Yeah, Cooper Chimney.
Yes.
So this is sort of we had but I saw one of the letters invitations for you to be. I saw the trustees, senators, executive excom, and management.
And any other parties.
Any other parties.
Yes.
Then I saw William Blake.
Yes.
I saw NCS as well in
yes.
there.
Yes.
All aimed at bettering. Yeah. All aimed at bettering the sport. What are those resolutions that you guys?
Resolutions za mirundi ebiri nga bwengambye. Ekisooka oba ekyasooka okukkiriziganyizibwako nti there was an acknowledgement that FMU took the necessary steps with the IGG to ensure that the federation's accounts are open. Hiyo resolution eyasooka. Resolution eyokubiri nga esinziira ku baali basabye okuddamu okuteekayo ebiteeso byabwe eri Constitutional Review Committee. FMU yali mu process y'okulongoosa ssemateeka waayo. So the second resolution was to allow stakeholders to submit proposals to the Constitutional Review Working Group.
As in reopen the process?
Very much so. Reopen the process and have people submit their proposals. Of course, these proposals are subject to consideration. It's a process. Yeah, the consideration, the proposals are collected, revisited, discussed, the merits, the pros and cons around a particular proposal, and if it warrants to be placed within the statute that will be made, then it can be placed there. So yes, the resolution is a bidi ezaba mu lutulo lwokusatu last week.
Yeah, Joe, let me bring you in. We've had a lot of issues about the sport and everything. Dion Agame, some of the resolutions that came up was reopening the constitutional review process. When that process was initially rolled out previously, I remember the competitors value views in the waters through Mayanja. Okay, you could submit through your clubs, but competitors were given that leeway of submitting through Mayanja. And for the record, in that assembly, the only two competitors who submitted through Mayanja, competitors are really
baita meeting and competitors by way of views up.
No, the competitors were told to submit their proposals through Mayanja. You're right. Look at the old constitution and the new and what you would think. So you submit through Mayanja and but that time the competitors submission in regarding the constitutional working group to give chance to people to come and expound on their submissions, which wasn't the case. Then a process we have a deadline. Then there was an extension of the deadline, so people could so you have vast number of proposals. I don't know how you treat this process of reopening the entire thing and giving people a chance to have their input.
Okay,
and
good
have
one.
timelines stipulated clearly so that people can really work within those timelines.
No, I agree. Makes sense. Maybe just Cambozelian, just for simple clarification. Meeting Jerio Wednesday, stakeholders, that mediation.
For the mediation, yes.
Abantu bona bali invited, or it was open to everybody to attend?
So there was a specific request or criteria to which people had to be invited. First, in the presence of the Senate, Board of Trustees, current EXCOM, past EXCOM, and the parties abali muki mu musango. That is, of course, kati musango gwali mu Court of Appeal guli wakati wa Mr. Dipu, Irene Mayanja yali omuwandiisi w'ekibiina, Dipu yali president, ne Mr. Nsamba. So ezenjuyi zombi zaali zirina okubeera muki mu meeting represented by their council. Yes, plus any other parties. Now, any other parties, enjoy zombi of course zakkiriziganya ani asobola okujja mu meeting. Eyasooka ku list yali NCS. Kubanga waliwo ebintu ebimu ebyali birina okugonjolwa muki mu meeting eyo. Then, of course, Mr. William Blake, by virtue of his status, former Olympic Committee President, jali waggulu mu bintu bya sports mu ggwanga, yajja mu lutuulo olwo. Charles, Mr. Obo, Fred Obo, Fred Obo tumumanyi fena mu motorsport era atuyamba nnyo mu bintu byetulina naye yajja mu lutuulo olwo then bacompetitors abamu nabo ne bajja but bayitibwa abamu bayitibwa but on a broader scale it was an open meeting at least mukulaba okwange it was an ng'oggyeko bano bonna abaali basengekeddwa everybody else was allowed to come in and sit and see how the process goes.
So basically, if somebody knew that the meet was taking place, you had to look walking in out of interest.
And there were a couple that came. Yes, okay. There were a couple
so,
that came.
So, when you question Jans, Kesh, as a student of communication, I believe so much in effective communication. Information will be fuluma. Very precise and concise about what is happening, and it should go out to everybody. Secondly, motorsport been timelines, so I find it very disappointing that in other things other than the rally itself, been to everyday administrative outside the rally to be keeping more time. Ekirala ekisinga okunsumba motorsport nti bangi tetwagala kusoma n'okutegera ebintu ebikwatagana ne motorsport. Tukwata besinga nnyo ku ngambo and things like that. Because in my view, natandika okufollowinga motorsport wa Uganda, I think in 2006. Okufollowinga motorsport wa Uganda directly, and I got my first national competition rules, I think from you and Edson. The next competition rules I got was from Roger and who? And Semakula. Nitango following motorsport wa Uganda. But to get to that point, namazo kusoma n'okutegera motorsport wa tambula internationally. So the last phase of it was motorsport wa Uganda. After seeing the politics of it, the last thing I did was to go into competition. Just for me it was an experiment. So at the end of the day I discovered one thing.
So you used to read your regs?
By the way, I read my regs page to page. I read NCRs page to page. And the regs never went so much. But many times I find person that you chirimu never taka neda no mwaka goli aneda sebo. This over eventually behavior. These are different. Never kabaka sentence kam kachosemo. I read it because that's how I do things. So zenyaganyo kusoma. Kati, I have come to realize one thing, that the mistakes in administration of motorsport have been recurring since 2010. Since then, since Kajimus, we've been making the same recurring mistakes. Twice from your constitution in 2014. 2013. NCS Act Najam 2014. We registered the trusteeship. Since then, because we don't follow through, we've been making some administrative mistakes from then on moving forward. Now, moving to more, I believe in this thing. Where there's a dark cloud, there's a silver lining. I don't have to say it in Uganda. Where there's a dark, there's a silver lining. Katuwetutu say, to agenda mu court, I disagree with some taking us to court, motorsport to court. However, judge to mu court, it has brought a bit of a shake-up. We should now let us now think of what are the issues as to the scenario to addressing the issues almost so take a body to addressing the issues. What to choose, for example, nti issue ya constitutional review working group. In that process, where there are some processes that were missed, I believe they were there. One key thing there was communication. Now, where did the communication fall short? Group of Anga Yawandikira by its system, because it was appointed by EXCOM, it communicated to EXCOM that we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 and gave the plan to EXCOM. Did the EXCOM, the club presidents, communicate the same to their members? And for that matter, to the broader fraternity to know what is happening? That's my question. It has to, yes or no? The only communication I received about that thing was verbal. But because I was also following keenly, I managed to text process in those
process. Which process? For the request of proposals. I'm afraid I'll have to disagree with you on that. There was a letter that was issued by the General Secretary to all stakeholders.
To clubs.
To all stakeholders in motorsport. and specifically clubs, requesting for the submission of proposals to the Constitutional Review Working Group. And there was a specific email attached to that. Yes? Why do I strongly say this? Because I equally submitted through my club. So I can't be told, or I can't be told something totally to the contrary, that there was no communication, there was no such thing. No. And I'm not the only one. There were several other people, yeah, that submitted through that particular process. But to go back to what you've said, we have a challenge as a fraternity, and that is a fact.
Okay, just before we talk about challenges, my question was the communication followed through? Was it developed, vertical communication through the clubs and the members? It was a question. In your question, saying yes, it was.
Yes, it was.
Verbally. Okay, it happened. But because I was also following, why am I saying that? That a BURUA again clubs, I assume it the case, it would have been nice for the same letter to go to all the members of the club, from the club. But then also, because it's an interest of motorsport, a very public forum, but when this what is happening, that no muntu aina interest knows exactly what is happening. Nechi mojamu, the taina locus wa yingira kubanga tani member wa club. Nenga atege de chigenda maso. Now, submission. As we said, deadlines were given. Why were deadlines? Why was that an extension? People were asked to make submissions. Submissions were not made. Clubs says Kayo. Why? It probably means because the idea would have been.
I think there are only 3 clubs for the record.
Yeah, on the record there were 3 clubs.
All after the extension.
No,
yeah,
before the extension.
One of the 2.
Out
but
of 16 clubs.
From the report, there were about 3 parties that submitted, that were noted in the report to have submitted proposals to the...
Even as a club, no Gamba, we don't have any views. That for you is a submission.
But again, that is very critical.
If the issue is the constitution, what is about the question that you want to do? Because I had to assume there was a proper explanation. I never read that letter. There was a proper explanation. So therefore, the clubs should have had the audacity to get their members and explain to them properly. If not,
assemblies. Let me tell you about this whole history of the constitutional review process. About 2018, when Dusman Oki was president, that issue of a constitutional review was
raised by Mozak.
2019, the same issue is brought forward. And I clearly remember
in the assembly.
That was, I think, the last ever assembly we had under trees.
Yes.
There was the LDC given the responsibility to go and draft a process that would lead us to a constitutional review.
In 2018.
And no work was done. Yes.
Exactly.
Then 2019, the same matter came back to the assembly. Then, of course, there was a change of governance in 2020. And one of the first issues around Dipu's tenure was to have a constitutional review process. Then COVID came in. Yeah. But all that said, the commitment towards moving and having a different statute was there. One of the biggest challenges, and like I was going to say, do we understand these processes? Yes? That a general secretary will issue a document and put it out there. I was thinking to get a bit the interest and possibly the capacity for us to say Article 15 of the FMU Constitution should probably be changed and redrafted as such. Article so and so should probably be, maybe this other proposal could be brought in. Drafting those things takes time. And also the capacity to understand that this regulation or this provision can work for us. Yeah?
Okay, Leon.
Now,
I agree with you,
Let's ask you commercial break. We'll come out, pick that from there. And what has been the most a straightforward question, Leon, after the break? Did we need to have the what we had, what was there on Wednesday for us to reopen the constitutional review process?
we shall get, I think, after the break.
After the break, we shall get to it.
After the break.
All right, we'll be back from that short commercial break. It's a podium. I share it like every single Monday from 10 p.m. to midnight as we preview and review every round of motorsport, the local scene, African scene, as well as on the international scene. And privileged to be joined by Commissioner moderating the driver symposium. Yaliko S&S Hotel. Nature show. Suggestion books we put in a lot of suggestions regarding that.
Subject to consideration.
Up to now.
I mean, you're moderating. Then you put up your hand for commuting. So the next time, and you get an independent. So I asked the question before the break.
Yes.
Did we need to have to go this far? Because among the resolutions that I accepting to unfreeze the federation's accounts, big up to the Inspector General of Government, as the sport has been in crippling with finances. But the resolution the reopening of the constitutional review process. Did we need to? Was anyone deterred from submitting his own opinions? And again, one of the issues that was issued, one of the orders that was issued by court was halting that process, which was it was among the orders that was given.
But katude kuntandikwa ya ekizibu kyaffe kakite ekizibu because kitutte mu situation nga nzibu nnyo. Okugenda mu court or Mr. Nsamba's going to court was premised on the fact that a constitutional review process was going to take place in an extraordinary assembly. So he potentially put a stop to that for reasons best known to him. But looking into what that extraordinary assembly was going to discuss, it was going to discuss a draft statute that would probably have been used by the Federation, maybe now, maybe for the future. And what additions that you, the members, had presented to that document, the draft that had been made up, so that people can really best understand what document was going to govern the Federation. We never got that chance. Yes? But there's been deliberate efforts previously to ensure that people submit proposals. And it's the discussion we've been having here. How many people submitted their proposals? What kind of proposals was put forward? Were they applicable to the, to the standards, to the demands of the National Sports Act? All those are things that the Constitutional Review Working Group worked on, and they were going to present a document to the Assembly. We never got that chance to. We have never had the opportunity to look through the draft statute that would be potentially the governing document of the Federation. Yes.
Though it was okay.
Yeah, it has been shared and all of that. But where it matters most is in the Assembly, where people have to discuss provision this, provision that. It is applicable, not applicable, it works, it doesn't work. Now, come to Wednesday's issue. In my personal opinion, I do not know where that whole issue came, how it actually came to the table of allow us to submit our proposals to the Constitutional Review Working Group. The acceptance of that by one party brought me to question one thing. But it is the very thing you were stopping. So 1 year later, you're now willing to agree to it.
Another extension of the timelines. After the first extension was with that extension.
Ironically. Wandika ugambe nti sifunye mukisa oba extension ni proposals zange zeziriwa zezino.
If I may, like before in the commercial break, I was building a point which interests me. You actually agreed with during the break. The issue of communication for me it remains important. Nti communication weja, remind tugenda kola 1, 2, 3, 4. It's very important for the structures within the, in this case clubs, to explain the same process to their members, so that everybody can understand. If it's not being done, communication with Vamu, in this case, Secretary wa FMU or Constitutional Review Working Group to the member we're going to see, and they're not able to explain that to their members, then there is a weakness which we must address. Now, on the issue of those extensions, People submit. Some people were given time to submit, and very few people submitted.
Everybody was given the time.
Everybody was given
the opportunity to
but
submit.
very few people submitted. Why? The question which was do people actually read and understand these things, or bagenda what we call Kaswa Brigade talk, and it moves around it together nature. Because I know that at the end of the day, a draft document was made, and it was supposed to be presented. One of the things that in my investigations, there was an assembly which was called to pass the new constitution. That is what I had, and therefore it led to injunction of that assembly. Now that's what passed, but why did you get to that point? Because there was never a proper explanation that we have arrived at a draft which we want to look at. Just like the same assembly was believed that it was going to go and endorse and extend term limits.
Unfortunately,
which again was not the case.
The assembly,
thank you for a disclaimer to that.
The assembly has what you call an agenda.
Yes.
Right? There's an agenda of the assembly, so on and so.
The agenda for the extraordinary assembly of 3rd January was as follows: presentation of the draft document, discussion. Yes. Discussion, of course, therein means explanation. Provision this I don't think is agreeable. Provision that maybe is acceptable. Can we reward this? Can we? That process had to happen.
Yes.
Then I remember one, I think agenda item number 3 or number 4 was way forward.
Yes, I remember.
It was coming down to the assembly to decide on whether the document that has been presented to them is one they can agree with. Yes?
Yes.
And it was not going to be agreed upon in that extraordinary assembly.
True.
Never. So it goes back to the one thing that whoever sought the path they sought, did they quite understand well the processes that we were, as a federation or as a fraternity, were going to go through?
So what happens in a situation if now, because even the Muga
line,
the process
I don't want to limit this issue to the one who thought that way. Because from my understanding up this point in time, very many people thought that way. The question is why? Where is the gap in information transition that leads to such interpretation?
Thankfully, you go back and say one thing, Kaswa Brigade. People listen more to misinformation than they actually do of the actual information. And this is the discussion we had outside there, that once the factual information is put to the fore, it is quite often not accepted. That one is a fact.
Because the misinformation has taken root.
It is because the misinformation, and also maybe the nature of the fabric of our fraternity, yeah, and the history that lies, behind us, that we tend to pick up the unfactual things more than we do of the factual things, yeah, and that is where we go wrong, unfortunately. But it's a process. We are going to get there. Yeah, people now. I'm even thankful that we've gone through this whole thing, and we always keep saying that FUFA was there 21 years ago. Yes? They had to go into the gutters and come out clean. We have also gone through the gutter, partially, not as dirty as probably FUFA was, but we are going to come out clean. Yeah? Now, there's a heightened sense of sensibility of we need to have this direction. This direction will elevate us to this level, and if you're to be part of this process, you must be sane enough to accept the changes that will happen through this whole process, and we shall get there.
And again, where are we? Some of the things that, if you look at Deposit tenure, he kept two things. He kept on talking two things that are always in my mind. He said about the constitutional review. That is always one of the things he kept talking about. Number two was the drivers formulating a
welfare club.
He kept saying it for all his 4 years.
Yes.
All his 4 years he kept talking about the constitutional review. When this current president, Jimmy Akina, came into office, he also...
He's picked up on the same conversation.
On the same conversation.
Yes.
And he calls himself, okay, but a transitional leader.
Yes.
Take us through this process, have elections. Abalimu abagamba fe twalondera constitution enkadde ya myaka emeka ena bwe muntu kwatirako tuyingira court but anti labayo but if you have a new constitution you have to conduct elections as per that constitution you can't again still have but Joe, where I differ from you is that you can't send the club because Joe what is trying to shed in my vision Ogamanti there was a communication mishap. I'll give an example. Communication gap. I'll give an example. The National Court of Appeal has 30 days. From the time someone files an appeal, if I file it today, 30 days from the time I filed it, the ruling. Never mind the ruling. But you have a situation where the National Court of Appeal takes ages. What happens to my appeal if it comes 4 years later? The question is, will the ruling still hold, be overtaken by events and everything? Then the clubs bafuna that communication about the
request for
proposals. But again, it's how active are people in their clubs? How active are members?
Also, how serious do clubs engage their members? It goes two ways. How active are members in their clubs, and also how active are clubs in engaging their members?
I'm happy we're having this conversation here, because on the forums it is a conversation that has been there for years, donkey years. The catchphrase is "Go to your clubs." Yes. If as a member of a club you find that your executive is not being purposeful or is not innovative enough, what stops you in trying to push the narrative of let us do these activities, let us do these activities? Quite often many people are going to say and those are the things we have on our forums.
But that's a fact.
And it is a fact. So what happens then? Either ogenda kuva mu club or ogende mu club endala ekola ki? Probably ekola.
Then what happens to the members of this club? And listen, now supposing you have 16, you have in a club is 16, right? 16 clubs. If I migrate from club X
to club Z
as under the guys in Tieno Tekola, so kangende mwenu. This one which works. What happens is we can't all migrate because for a club as per our constitution or you have to have at least 30 members.
And what have we consistently said? If you feel that your club is not doing as much, contest. Enkasiji kwate, guide your club to where you think. Mukenya
I think there are very many.
Nobody is going to do the work for you. Semateka wakirabu yo wali. Mulonda after every 2 years.
Over and
for
over
donkey years.
For donkey years. Waliwo yagamba nti for as long as you keep doing the same thing, or in this case saying the same thing, in the same way,
and
expecting different results, then there's something wrong with you. If you have said it for donkey years, it means it is best to adjust and say, why isn't this thing working? It is not as easy as you think. There are clubs which are functional. There are people who actually like the clubs they are in. But the point is, if you are to club never productive, but at the end of the day, the federation ena locus yokuuliza n'okumanya bino ebintu might never know check why don't we address it? The fact that they're not addressing it is also a weakness. Omukulu abuzizza nti Court of Appeal has 30 days in which to listen to an appeal.
The FMU
Court, the National Court of Appeal. Bukenya bwetekayo gundi. I am pretty sure EXCOM knows about it. Is EXCOM buzzed enough to start counting 29, 28,
I am happy I tested the same system in 2019. Omusango gwawa wabibwa netukola appeal netuteka ne ku Court of Appeal. 30 days elapsed. What happened next? We wrote to the Senate. Hoima Rale. And the Senate sat and gave us
after how long?
A decision. After some, I think 3 or 4 years. Sorry, months. No. It was months, not a year. It was months.
The Senate yakola decision on the eve of the last event
of the championship. And yes, there are challenges in that area. But now it goes back to one thing.
But these are timelines you're meant to adhere
Yes.
to. Why did
2019 have to push all the way?
It goes back to one thing. Do we have the requisite human resource in our fraternity?
My answer is yes. In the fraternity, yes. But is the human resource being engaged?
Thank you. The engagement is not going to happen, or the appetite to be part of the process is not going to happen when you've gone through a whole year of funny things.
But no, now Marcus.
Yes. It is still part of the dynamics. It is still part of the dynamics. Yes. It is still part of the dynamics. Second, you want us to refer to the years past. Thank you very much. The commitment. It also comes back down to the commitment. How much commitment do we have as individuals in the positions we are in to get the work done? The silence says as much.
Very little.
The silence says as much. Tomorrow you're going to get a position.
And the better question is, are you in that position out of interest for the sport or interest for something
And it's exactly what I was getting to. And probably it happens everywhere else, in other small spaces. Oh, give me this position, I can work. 1 month into that job,
I'm only volunteering.
People have sat through meetings up to midnight. Yeah, in this whole thing that we want to make so good. Yeah, but not so many are going to have that commitment to sit in one meeting today, tomorrow, the next day after.
Maybe it's high time with this new structure. The producer at the National Sports Act being a magic bullet. I think to all sporting, it is maybe in this new structure, organogram, and everything, we could step away from
the volunteerism,
and
try and add a bit of something to the effort.
Then you compel people to account for what they earn.
I think it's a process. But we can't achieve that process when we've spent the last several months in, let me call it taka business.
Leon, not only saying number, I started following motorsport in Uganda in 2006.
Yes.
And I became active in 2010. And to 2025. For the last 15 years, the EXCO, Administration of Federation, has been making the same mistakes.
Thank you.
And I said that where there's a dark cloud, there's a silver lining. Mr. Ansambo tutwala mu court, okutwala motorsport mu court, is a good thing. Why? It has shaken up the federation, the fraternity. In my view, it has shaken up the fraternity to example that maybe we need to start asking other deeper questions.
We were already on that road.
So the question is,
we were already on that road.
The question is, what you're trying to insinuate, it had to be a court process.
No, not saying it had to be. Not saying it had to be. But it unfortunately has been. Unfortunately has been.
For me, the thing is, we were already on that path. We were already on that path of how do we rejig ourselves? How do we reform or how do we restructure ourselves to ensure that we have particular governance processes that are going to make us a better federation? Yes? We were on that path.
Yes.
And, you know, it was put a stop to. Yeah? But on the other hand, now the conversation has become bigger. Yes? What do we need to do? And thankfully, like I think the lower third was. Yeah, unfortunately it is. The National Sports Act as a magic bullet.
Yes.
Now we now have to think bigger. How do we as motorsport cover 75% of the country? How do we as motorsport create regulations for academies? How do we as motorsport and club owners now start to form legal existence so that we can be registered under the federation and also the National Council of Sports, because the National Sports Act requires that community clubs should be registered by NCS.
Let me ask you a question.
NCS, then of course you have to go the corporate.
Thank you.
Then having your if you read the act extensively and appreciate it, there's a producer that was some sneak peek of Act in relation to the being an association and the federation.
And the federation, I think
the association
Section 9.
Yeah, the association
Section 9, 10, 11.
Being 50% of coverage in the whole country, and then you have 50% of representation of
the assembly.
Of the assembly.
In the assembly.
In the assembly.
Yes.
That means if you cap 50% of the districts, that means you know 50% of representation of that 50% coverage in your assembly. For the federation, it has to be 75%.
104 districts to make it easier. 104 districts to cover motorsport. 75 districts represented in the assembly.
In the assembly. And I'll pose a question to Leon. Is this a hard task for motorsport?
And before you answer,
yes,
let me ask this question, and I'll ask you the same thing to answer.
It's
okay. So same question. 2023, the sports bill came out, and we all knew.
There's even been an amendment by the to the sports bill
about
the doping.
It's in regard to doping.
To doping, yes.
Okay. We knew then that we were supposed to align. We have had our issues of fighting. We knew then, at some point, as I keep saying, have we made any steps to prepare ourselves to align, or are we waiting?
Let me answer that question. We are in a position where we can't juggle so many balls. We can't be dealing with litigation, then you want to deal with the constitutional review process, then you're dealing with we're looking for finance, then you're dealing with. You have to, with our capacities, we can only juggle just a few balls. Yeah, but that doesn't go without saying that we need to put work to the process. We definitely have to put work to the process. And if you read Honorable Akena's report or message at the AGM, I think on page 3 or page 2, he had an outline of the fact that the constitutional process must be achieved. And he had a pathway towards that. Yeah, and I think now part of it is again from the mediation issues that okay, if there was not as much effort previously in the proposals, there's going to be an opportunity for you to submit proposals, and I'd really be glad to follow much about how much or how keen people will be towards submitting proposals. How many will submit proposals? What kind of proposals will have been submitted in that window? It is a statistic I really want to take.
Yes, but can we change a process somewhere? Communication should be improved. And why am I saying should be improved? We have stuck to this thing of Secretary Awandi against Zemba Club. So we expect clubs to do 1, 2, 3, 4. Can we, now that the debate has become bigger, two things for me are very important. To change how we make that communication, but also we need a clearer process for the bigger fraternity to clean the image of motorsport. And this, in my view, is one of them, aka, to borrow the phrase, magic bullet. Motorsport unfortunately, why debate motorsport one channel some time ago. President himself, Leon, Nzamba, and Nani. There were 2 sponsors who were tethering on the line. I think for some years we've been working on them, who were tethering on the line. After that show, the books on motorsport have been closed.
Thank you. And I'll also add the voice to that. That there was a recent show elsewhere.
Break. Get back into our last segment as we deliberate on affairs of motorsport in our country. Let's get back after this short commercial break. Back from that short commercial break into our last segment of today's show, the 3rd of March 2025. I have a billion messages here. Okay, we'll read as we deliberate. But prior to that break, we were talking about the issue of where our gaps and it's time for us to know that we're going to the way forward. We have the National Sports Act comparing, in fact, for lack of a better word, federations to align, associations to align. We've seen netball, formerly Uganda Netball Federation to Netball Uganda. They ran a budget of 4+ billion shillings. FUFA has also made the same strides. Budget of 46 billion. In our last assembly, budget estimates it was because that matter was deferred. because issues to do the third books of workouts are inner issues, so we wait for that next regional assembly to have that. But nevertheless, the light at the end of the tunnel, every dark cloud has a silver lining. Leon, where do we pick it up from here, and how best can we better the sport? Because it's given the time to bad demo, this bickering and everything, we need to move forward. And I don't know what.
I think we're now at a point where the storm has calmed down a bit, and you can even tell that on the forums itself. You said earlier you'd get thousands of messages. Today you can close the day with just a couple of them, 50, maybe 100, and on totally different discussions. There's been an admission, I think, within the whole fraternity that this is now behind us. We need to have things going forward. And the most important thing is achieving a new document that restructures the way we are formed. That we have to agree to. Now, upon achieving that, then of course people are going to start fitting themselves within the existing structure.
Of that new document? Of
the new document. And that is the broader thing. It is not just going to be a Kampala issue. It is a regional issue. It is having possibly an office in the deepest village in western, eastern, or northern Uganda, where motorsport can be done, whichever kind, grown to the regional area. So now you've spread out the tentacles of governance. That also means you have to create capacity of the human resource you have. They must be knowledgeable of the things and the direction you intend to have as a body. Yes? Think of it as more of a triangle. You're at the top here, but the biggest amount of work is further at the bottom. Yeah. And that is the direction we must accept, but also we may need to have guidance as a fraternity on how to achieve proper governance principles. What model can we look at? What model and what items can we bring into our structure? Which people can we then fit in our structure, so that we are able to say, we now have a concrete thing, we have a concrete base that can see us grow. When you have stability in that area, then you're able to attract. Before we went for the break, Joe made mention of the fact that there were two sponsors who were tethering on whether they should be in or out of motorsport. We had a show recently, and one competitor made, I'll call it an allegation, of not receiving a particular product that they should have received. And, information came out that you actually received. After that show, the sponsor or the person who provides that product to the sport sent messages to the EXCOM members. I have heard this, I have seen this on the forums, kindly explain this to me. The damage is orchestrated by ourselves, unfortunately. We are the ones that do the dirty on ourselves and expect to be clean on the other side. No, it doesn't work like that. And like Joe said, we need as a group, as a fraternity, to say, what is the direction we intend to take? Where do we want to go? What are the goals? How do we get there? And once we get there, how do we attract others to be part of this thing that we have? It is the only way we are going to come out of these problems that we've had, and entirely actually, and if anything, compete with football.
True.
If anything, we are going to be in that ring with football. Some people are laughing.
but
it is the fact.
It's a fact, yes.
It is a fact. Yeah? For you or for us as a fraternity to be able to say, yes, they could beat us on the monies, but we should be able to flex a bit and say, we...
On appeal.
On appeal. We have lost that appeal as motorsport. We have lost it. But it can still be regained if we do the right things. The right things is ensuring that all of us are on board to form a document that we can abide by, accept, and get us to where we want to go.
If I may chip in all this school about, there's a couple of things I've also come to understand. That there are very many participants who have also somewhere along the way misunderstood or lost the understanding of the basic principles of motorsport, of engaging in motorsport. Somewhere in the way it has gotten lost. We need to get back to that drawing board. So people need to understand, what does it take to engage in motorsport? So I still insist that we twinokuddamu okwetereza, tulina okwerongoosa image yaffe. So therefore ebintu bye tulina okukyusaamu. Let not be business as usual. Yes, Leon nga bwagambye, tulina expanding soccer fight. We need to change our constitution. But the process of changing the constitution has to be a bit more transparent now. If it was transparent then, let's make it a bit more open for whatever cases. Communicate more broadly, let everybody understand, paste it all. They were pasting letters left, right, and center. Let's probably do the same. But take it where it is going. Let there be an effort to explain to people where we are, because a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings led to a lot of that impasse. But not we shall be also polishing the image of the sport. And more importantly, like I said, we got shaken up. To take on me versus you kind of battle. Let us be, what were the issues that led to this? To the addressing. Issue accountability. Let's look at the issue of what led to issues of accountability. What led to the issues of governance? What mixes have we been making? Let us also not be able to strengthen our structures. To have a broader structure is going to be a lot more complex than it is right now. But yet we're supposed to end up structuring. I agree. I am one of those guys who has always believed that it would be a very good thing to flex motorsport, to get to number one. That has always been my dream. But arriving there has always been a process which has an issue of Bagonyo Luzungu. But at the end of the day, it is coming to the same thing. Amateka gali mu Luzungu, ebitu governor biri mu Luzungu. Chisome mu Luzungu, then interpret it into Uganda and implement it in the local language, as long as it comes the same thing you've read in the Luzungu. So tuyakuba tukwataganye tubenga tusobola kutambula tubibenga forward.
I'll ask follow up on that. Now we all good enough. We are all very cognizant. I don't know. I might call it all ngate, but at least there's a need to align with the National Sports Act.
Yes.
It was ascended to by the president, gazetted. I think Chibade Chidiwo of late, we were waiting for the statutory instrument. Yeah. And of course, which will have the regulations of how it's meant to be effected. Okay, because it was signed in 2023, and then 2024 to Bade Nuneri, so 2025 should be a year for us. But going forward, at clubs, because the constitution says a minimum of 30 people for a club to be in existence. Yes. How do you reform our clubs? There must trickle down effect from the Waguru,
let's say from the management or governing body down to the clubs.
With the new anticipated structure, how do we, without preempting what would be there, what remedies would you say?
I think looking at the draft, your registration or your subscription to the new format will require you to have a particular setup as a club. And thankfully, clubs are seeing to legalize the existence. So the legalization of the existence, of course, now comes with particular demands. Yes. Now, that, of course, means that the duty goes back down to the club members to ensure that particular processes at their club level are done. And when those processes are done, that means you're sending a good message here at the top. That here we are properly constituted, we are abiding by this. If the rule book requires us to have an annual general assembly, we have had it. If the rule book requires us to have particular processes in calling a meeting or in appointing of particular people, we have done all those things. The biggest challenge will be in the flaws that exist at that level. But the federation here at the top should be able to look into those things and try and help and straighten out what its members are required to be. And very much the same policy with the club licensing. That as FUFA, you have regulations around club licensing. There is a gatekeeper to that, to entry of a club. By your failure to abide and tick the boxes on what is required of you at club licensing, you do not be party to this particular entity. Now, those are structures we need to create as a federation, in one way or another. Those that suit us. So you have a proper alignment of your members, yeah, that are suitable now to come to the table and discuss. Because by virtue of their existence here that is properly aligned, yeah, then they're going to come to the table and you don't have to point a finger and say, but you didn't have an election last year. Well, what did you do about it? Yeah. So, and those are some of the challenges we've had. That
it gives you checks and balances.
That's precisely the word, the checks and balances. And we'll face it. We have clubs where you ask, when did you last hold an election? We keep asking one competitor, who's your club president? Ngatamumanyi. Yeah? But he's a member of a particular club. What does that say? That the membership of the club is not being checked by themselves.
Yeah, computers, I think, from a computer's perspective,
yes,
clubs. Is that endorsement to get a competition license? And when you're done, it's...
And I'm very glad ku Wednesday NCS yabagambe ekintu eki muddeyo muki muzitereeze bwe munazitereeza ezo sente ze mugamba nti ze mwagala zijje mu nsawo yammwe zijja kuyita muki kati club yiwe bateteredde. Of course it's not going to come with a proposal of capacity building.
Federation in the last term yakwata a certain amount of money in our clubs for governance and administration. So all the 16 clubs, buli emu again and every club, every club was given. The issue. But again, the issue is you don't have uniformity.
Yeah, again,
even if you give us what you call an outline, we are facilitating on this. This is the outline. We anticipate you to have your courses of governance and administration in this context.
All those things.
Everyone would.
All those things, Bukenya, go back to the constitution that we have and its structure. And you and I know that the club heads sit on the ExCom and management at this level. The conversations that exist at that level vary in what should be meted out onto the clubs, directly or indirectly, yeah, and who should be able to report to the other.
If I can ask Leon, as you build, wouldn't it be important, Bukenya as the moderator, sets the agenda and forms how the discussion is supposed to go. As FMU leadership, you need to be able to set the discussion agenda and how it's supposed to trickle down. And come back and monitor if that is happening. So that if it is not happening, you actually start from there.
Yeah, the leadership gives direction.
Yes, should give direction that we're supposed to do.
The last assembly last year, where management came up with what they call the harmonized manifesto. There were 10 points, where you have governance, what they think, administration, you know. They gave the 10 points, which were, of course, which are meant to be expounded.
I would like you to go and get any 4 members
of management
and ask them any of those questions. First, they'll ask you what are you.
It was harmonized.
Yes.
My point is harmonized because everyone on that management had his or her own manifesto.
So that becomes that becomes a good position.
Yes.
You get any 4 members and ask them. Let us discuss your harmonized
at the end
and see if they expect you the same thing.
At the end of the day, we need to put that constitution that we have somewhere and say this is what is going to work for us.
So are we again, are we reviewing and amending? What because that question has also been asked.
I critically remember what Mr. Fred Obose, the chairman of the Constitutional Review Working Group, prior to the existence of the National Sports Act, what were we doing?
Same process, reviewing and with the purpose of amending.
Thank you. Then when the National Sports Act came, what demands did it have on us?
Certain administrative structures and certain stipulations which we needed to adopt.
Thank you.
The National Sports Act, the coming into existence of the National Sports, what if the effect towards
on the process we had prior to its existence. Now, at the end of the day, you have a national law that requires you to do more than 10 things. You have an existence of a document that didn't have any of those 10 things, possibly. which word fits that?
It's still the same, in my view.
Review and amending.
Review and amend, yes.
Ultimately, you are amending the document you have.
Because you've now been given a different... No, amendment now comes after you have passed, you've now agreed the position. Because it still remains the FMA constitution. So therefore, when you say, now we have this, we are considering this one.
As a matter of fact, we're actually going to trash the old one and have a whole new document.
That's your view.
It's a fact.
That's your view.
That's the
path where we are getting to.
Nina Abdallah Zubeda, I know the message one. Great show on people, okay. Then Agamanti, I agree with you, the draft document before reaching assembly should be given sufficient effort for stakeholders to contribute to. Yeah, I think
that is the process we are heading
to. Club level. Club level, discuss it at club level, because previously even the constitutional working group clubs like clubs you say,
but I don't at the end of the day you're putting too much work on yourself. Yes, you can have as many extraordinary meetings as long as you're discussing a document that is going to be the final document for your governance. Yes, the body that forms and the concrete of, or the foundation of your existence is your assembly. The body that will pass that document is the
assembly.
Who other than the assembly is best fit to listen to the reviews and processes?
But the issue is, before it gets to assembly, let we the members understand it. Now in this case, if there's a draft, let there be effort at the club for it to be understood. I know two things happened at Enduro, for example. A day before the deadline was given, we had a sort of team discussion.
Meeting, yeah.
First attended by very few people. But we all didn't agree with the position, the elements. But we agreed, okay, let's take that as the club position, because at that point in time, it was more important to come up with the club position as opposed to discussing what makes sense. So I said, okay, let us, for the sake of semantics, agree this is the club position, but members can submit individually. After all, it's the CRWG which is going to harmonize and put things together. Now that we had some ups and downs in that whole process, let's presume that in Ngaba it has been reawakened. Let there be a re-engagement of all members of these proposals by the CRW working group so that everybody understands it. When it is done, it is taken back so that everybody understands it. So we need to get to the assembly when everybody has understood it. That for me is the process. People need to understand what they're doing. Otherwise, I would rather we spend more time flexing to understand than coming to force it and say that, you know,
and that's where I said earlier that you can have as many extraordinary assembly meetings
within the clubs or at
the top level to explain to people the document that you have.
Okay, now we have given the fact into one of the resolutions the other demo meeting on Wednesday was reopening of the. So we had to get to a roadmap.
Yeah, all that process, I believe, will come through. I think after we're done with the court process and we have, like I said earlier, we're juggling so many balls, or we are attempting to want to juggle so many balls. We can only do so
my
much.
Only question to you as an insider. Is there any process up this point that shows that we are going to go somewhere other than talking?
I think that is the management can at best give you an answer to that.
To be in the nature.
Okay. A question here saying having 3 clubs submitting informs that stakeholders may distribute the changes because they don't read the document. 2, FMU should enforce effective communication, not just tick boxes. Okay, then Agamba, if they know we are lazy to read what has been done to ensure documents reach us, don't direct us to don't direct us to fade to the fading clubs, but the clubs fading.
There's nowhere else you can go
I'm greetings to the guest council of FMB. They managed to come out with an agreement. Then Moses Agamanti, guys, thanks for the show. Good seeing Leon and John on set, but we still have a long way to go if it is if you're going to cover it for the event, we are yet to set off 400 kilometers ahead of us.
But that's a fact.
That's a fact.
We have a long way to go. But, you know, if we all put our efforts together, all hands on deck, then we shall arrive. The one thing I still feel aggrieved about is that somebody who was, or who should have been more knowledgeable about this kind of processes, chose a different path. As opposed to trying to stifle something, bring that wealth of knowledge to the table and say, gentlemen, I think there's a mistake here. How about we correct it? Yes? Okay, fine. Have we corrected it? Or what processes can we do to correct this? Okay, that is done. Now, what is next? The constitutional review process. Which people can we have on board to say what documents can we, or what proposals, what provisions can we add to a document that will be favorable for me, you, and the other in the governance of this federation? That is what I think.
My last one has Leon, a last one. Haven't we been so much after running down that sporting calendar? Fetch too far. NRC chesoka iwedde hai chebade wade motocross jo egaruga hai dakeruwa.
Exactly.
Human resource for me is a very important thing. We need to be able to separate, and unfortunately our constitution has curtailed us in that space, that the decision-making bodies are taking this direction. But there must be a separation of people who probably even care so little about the championship running.
The politics and the technical.
Yes, but they're able to say, we have made steps 1, 2, 3 in achieving a particular document. Unfortunately, you're going to find that we, the very decision makers, are involved in the competition elements, yeah, are involved in the marketing elements, are involved, we are everywhere and about. Yeah.
So the new structure should
the new structure should be able to separate. I had somebody was not happy about using and benchmarking on what FUFA has done. But we need to look at what is above us to be able to get closer. What have they been able to do? Yeah? Our own constitution requires that our judicial body shall offer recommendations to the EXCOM. Yeah, so they'll vote about where is the independence. Basic governance principles will show you that some bodies have to be semi-autonomous or entirely autonomous in one way or another. We don't have that. Yeah.
Okay, our time is fast sped. Producer Ngambanti.
As we wrap up, management needs to take lead and push. My only departure from is I don't think the whole management or whole EXCOM understands and agrees with this process. That should be issue number 1. Let us first address that issue and then push it down.
Do you parting shots?
I'm happy we have made some headway as regards the challenges we've had. The storm has come down, but we have a lot of work ahead of us. If we are to align with the National Sports Act, if we are to have a statute of governance that is going to lead us to, let me say, the promised land, yeah, then we need to have all hands on deck, all heads in the room to have a document that will get us there and make motorsport better. But while we do that, let us also enhance our capacities individually, because tomorrow, today, or the day after, the very people that are talking here or wherever in the other spaces are going to be the ones in those positions to see the sport take forward movement. So we need to really get ourselves ready and push forward with regard to achieving that major goal.
Okay, yogede kubiye bifondi abali wano n'abali eri bagenda kubanga bali ngoya n'ekifo kyayagala bagule. That's all we want for you guys. We have to be. I wish you a good week and God bless.
Second attempt with Nemo to go and drive the event as a WRC candidate, and as also you are aware that last year we had a very bad incident during that event, so we are trying to prepare well this time and make sure that our target is good. We want to finish the event this time. We don't mind about any position, but make sure that we are on the right track and be able to finish the event and put in record that we were there. To all our sponsors, we appreciate MOIL Tanzania, MOIL Kenya, MOIL Uganda, MOIL Zambia, MOIL Rwanda for supporting us to be able to do this event. We really appreciate them. Without them, we are not able to do. To all the crews working hard to make sure the car is back on the road as soon as possible. We really appreciate them. To all the media team who have been covering us through and through, and who are also preparing very hard to cover the event this year. We really appreciate them as well. To our family members, I know it's going to be long days and more critical this time because it's a second attempt. It's going to be tough on them, but yeah, I think with your prayers we'll be able to do very well. Finally, to all our fans, whether you are traveling or you're not traveling, we really appreciate. I know you love us a lot. Do not drink and drive. Take care of yourselves while you're going there. Follow all the rules and regulations that have been placed there. It's going to be very safe for all of you if you follow those instructions and whatever the officials are saying. We will all go back, enjoy ourselves, and come back again. The entry reads as it is, but the ARC is also part of it, so we are going to do 2 in 1. So ARC is part of it. We have planned doing the ARC and the Ugandan National Championship as well. So we'll weigh ourselves after the WRC. We don't want to give everybody hopes and then it doesn't turn out well, but it's in the process.